Welcome to the Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom podcast with Jacob Ayers, providing actionable content to help you along your journey to financial freedom through real estate investing. As the premier asset class, real estate has helped ordinary people just like you amass fortunes. The benefits of passive income from your host, entrepreneur, real estate investor, and apartment deal syndicator, Jacob Ayers.
Hi, and welcome to the Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom podcast, episode 91. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode. I think you're really going to enjoy this one. Our guest is Clayton Morris, a former Fox News anchor who left the #1 cable news show in the world after achieving financial freedom through real estate investing. Clayton now devotes himself to helping others buy their first rental property, build passive income, and achieve financial freedom through real estate investing. With that, let's bring on Clayton Morris. All right, today I welcome on the show Clayton Morris. Clayton, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, Jacob, thanks so much for having me.
Hey, it's our pleasure. Well, hey, Clayton, can you tell the audience a little bit about how you got started investing in real estate?
Well, I started out, kind of grew up with a real limiting belief around money. So I always saw my dad sort of struggling. He had a lot of business books on his shelf, over the years, but he never really took action on any of that. And he always worked for a paycheck, and I really grew up with this sort of, scarcity mentality around money. Money doesn't grow on trees. We're not the Rockefellers. We can't afford that. And I watched my dad lose his job when I was like 12 years old. And he was like a mid-level manager. He ran a couple of, big warehouses in Pennsylvania for meat distribution up and down the East Coast. If you would go into a grocery store, like all of the meat at the meat counter, like pretty much came from my dad, but they downsized. And so he thought he was a valuable employee until the day that he wasn't. And I remember just seeing him scared. And, that really resonated with me. And I didn't know it at the time, but that seed was planted that day for me, that I knew that eventually someday, somebody was not going to be in control of my destiny. That person was going to be me, not some employer telling me what I could do, what I couldn't do. And so that was the seed that was planted for me. And then I just lived all over the country in the TV business. I moved out to the West Coast after college and at the University of Pittsburgh and started working as a production assistant for Good Day LA. And the producer said, if you want to make it in television, you want to be on camera doing what you love, you've got to leave the second market in the country. You can't start in Los Angeles. So I left and moved to Montana as a political reporter, and then to West Virginia as a morning anchor, and all over the country in a different capacity. Finally wound up at the Fox News Channel at the network many years later. But all that while I was moving across the country paying rent to other people, and I guess I just realized that I never saw these landlords. I never saw these people. They lived, maybe hundreds of miles away, and I was paying them rent every month. And they were creating wealth off the backs of these tenants in these different properties. So again, a second seed was sort of planted. And I just finally decided to take action when I got my job at Fox, that I was going to start to build true passive income. I was going to start to build that safety net that I knew that I needed to build, and so that I would not repeat what my dad had gone through many years before.
Yeah, Clayton. Well, like many people out there, it kind of sounds like you were raised with that scarcity mindset. The path in life you were given is, go to school, get a good education, get a good job, sock away money in your 401k, get raises, live financially like frugally. And you kind of realized, halfway maybe through your career that wasn't really the recipe for success or, how to build wealth. So, it's kind of interesting to see that, that transition play out.
Yeah, I mean, it's still something I struggle with, that fear of money and having that self-doubt about it. But, and a lot of people feel that the job they have is safe, right? The 9-to-5 job is safe. And that's just the wrong way to look at it. It's not safe. That's the least safe thing, right? Because what happens when they just decide to not renew your contract or downsize or, close up that office and you're out of a job? I recently was hiring some people in my office at Morris Invest, and the people that I was interviewing they're like, yeah, they decided to get rid of that department. That's why I'm not working right now. Or I heard so many different stories about repositioning. And so it's not safe, but people have this perception that a 9-to-5 job is safety.
Yeah, sometimes people kind of confuse that stability of a every biweekly paycheck as safe and comfortable. But like you said, many people just get laid off. You're at the mercy of another employer. So yeah, coming from that kind of mindset, it's important to see why it's important to build passive streams of income and do things outside of a 9-to-5 employer.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you have to build your own thing. So when I lost my job in Philadelphia, 10 years ago, I was the anchor for Good Day Philadelphia. And they encouraged me to move back home to my home city, go Eagles, get back home. And in fact, they were running promo ads for me during the Eagles playoff game at the time. And I had people calling me up from childhood that I hadn't spoken to in years. It's like, you're back in Philadelphia? I just saw your ad during an Eagles game. That's crazy. So they're like, yeah, buy a house. You're going to be here a long time. And it was super exciting. And then the woman who hired me, she was fired like the week after I got there. She wanted me to be like the young, fun morning show guy. That's why they brought me in. And she was fired a week later. So now I had no internal support. And the guy they replaced her with wanted to do sort of if it bleeds, it leads, morning show news. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to do like violence and back-to-back murder stories.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's not my cup of tea. So about 8 months in, they had an option window in my contract, which allowed them to basically say, we're not renewing your contract. And they called me in the office, and I thought, oh, this is going to be a good conversation. And they said, basically, we think you were sold a bill of goods. We're moving in a different direction. And I'm out. And they said, we're not going to renew your contract. And it was like a punch to the stomach. It was like I relived my father losing his job when I was 12 all over again. And I just vowed then that I didn't understand that it was going to be real estate. I just knew I needed to build something for myself that was going to be sustainable, whether or not someone's going to dictate my life to me.
Yeah. Well, Clayton, it's kind of at this point, when you had like this gut-wrenching moment of, being laid off from the news network, that you started to look for other things. So what was it about real estate that drew you to it?
Well, what happened to me was I was saving some money, but I didn't own any real estate, and the stuff that I had done really proved to be brutal. It was speculative. It was alluring to me because it felt like, oh, I understand it. It's tangible, right? It's not like the stock market. I don't understand that, but I understand that people need to live somewhere. And so the stuff that I had done before that was speculative, investing in a Phil Mickelson golf course community that was going to be built with these log cabins in North Carolina around this clubhouse and all this stuff. And then the collapse happened. And then, when the collapse happens, then, the builders backed out, everything. And I'm on the hook for a construction loan for a property that's not being built. Even the builders backed out. And so foreclosure, it was just brutal. So that was my screw up phase. And then I was on a flight to New Zealand, and it was a 16-hour flight. And it was the flight that changed my life. I was waking up after 15 hours. We're about to descend into New Zealand. I was gone for 5 days because a friend of mine invited me to come there and shoot photos. He's a photographer. And, I work, so I couldn't go more than 5 days. And my wife was kind enough to take the kids, and she's like, just go and have fun. And so on this descent, I meet these two people sitting next to me, this older couple. I mean, they're in their 50s. And they said, oh, nice to meet you. How long are you going to be in New Zealand? I said, 5 days. They said, 5 days? Wow, 16-hour flight for 5 days? And I said, yeah, well, what about you guys? They said, oh, we're going to be there for 2 months. And I said, 2 months? Who gets to go to New Zealand for 2 months?
Yeah.
And he looked at me and I said, what do you do? And he said, oh, I'm a real estate investor. There we go. So I just grabbed like a pen and a paper, and we were descending, clean up stuff, pull up your tray tables. And I was like, oh my God, why didn't I talk to them earlier? And I just picked his brain. I literally, based on what he told me, is what I'd still do today. And he told me where he buys. He buys in the Midwest. He doesn't fall in love with real estate. He falls in love with return on investment, ROI. Mm-hmm. He said, don't make the mistake of falling in love with the adorable little bungalow, just 4 walls and a roof. Get them rent ready. Do not over upgrade your properties. Unless that's, and he's like, I buy C-class, strong working class neighborhoods, consistent cash flow. He said, so while I'm here in New Zealand I have cash flow coming in from my tenants and my rental properties. And so that's exactly what I did. I went back, bought my first 2 rental properties. I found them off market, or one of them was a short sale back when there were short sales, and put like $15,000, $20,000 worth of rehab into them. I spent a little bit more on the upgrades than I should have, and they've been 2 of my best properties ever since.
Yeah, that's awesome. So he's kind of met a guy, thought, wow, I want to do what this person is able to do. So, hey, what do you do? Pick their brain, understand what it is, and just kind of replicate that process. So really cool. It kind of sounds like, Clayton, that you turned a switch at some point from earning income from an employer to building wealth and passive income. So, can you kind of talk about what that process and what that journey looked like?
So for me, it all started with our freedom number, and I give this away for free on my website. You can link to it if you want. It's 3 pages, and it might be 3 pages that could change your life. I know it changed mine, and it was born out of a lot of tears. So I call it my freedom number cheat sheet. And if they just go to morrisinvest.com/freedom, you can download it. I would recommend downloading it with your partner, your spouse, grabbing a bottle of wine, grabbing your laptop, and sitting down and being completely transparent and honest with yourself. So what happened to me was I purchased those first 2 rental properties. They were cash flowing about $800 a month. And I spent about 40, I was like all in around 40, 45, 47,000 roughly on each of them separately. And I had like 5-year leases on them, and they were just burning and churning every month. And my wife comes downstairs to me early on in this process, and she says, we can't pay the mortgage this month. Now, here I was, a network news anchor at Fox News Channel, making a very comfortable salary in Manhattan, 2 kids in New Jersey, which is expensive to live in, high taxes, etc. And I said, what are we doing wrong? Because I still hadn't gotten correct with myself. I still hadn't figured out the why, and we still were not financially literate in the way that we are now. So we didn't understand where the money was going. So I just said, what? And I literally had to put stuff up on Craigslist, like an old camera that I had, to make ends meet that month to pay for our mortgage. I was going through old video games.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was brutal. I mean, here I was like on the #1 morning show in the world on cable news, and yet I was like scrambling to pay my mortgage. So we were sitting there through tears over the next few days. We were in my office. I said, we got to figure this out. So I had a whiteboard in my office, and my wife says, well, I said, what are rental properties? And she said, yeah, what if we could replace what you make at Fox with those? And I said, and I had my eureka moment. And I said, that's it. And I just jumped up, and I never looked back. I grabbed a Sharpie or the dry erase marker, and I was like, okay, wait a second. These 2 properties, $800 a month. And I was like, we need to figure out what our monthly nut is. What are our monthly expenses? So that's what I teach you to do in this freedom cheat sheet, which is you got to know what your monthly expenses are. You're going to find that you're paying twice for Netflix. You're going to find that you're like, why are we being charged for this thing that I thought I canceled 4 years ago? You go through everything. Be brutal with yourself. Put it all down on a piece of paper. And what is the average of 6 months of your monthly expenses? Is it $4,000? Is it $7,000? What is it? And then once you know that number, what if you could replace that with passive income, real estate? Then you would be financially free. You don't need $1 million. You don't need $2 million. All you need might be $5,700 a month is what you would need to live financially free and have that security. So that's my focus now, is because you have to be first. That's where you need to start first, is in understanding those numbers before you start going after a goal.
Yeah, right. So you're almost kind of backing into what you need in passive income to live a comfortable life, and essentially, replace your earned income with passive income. So you're kind of auditing all your expenses from, say, the past 6 months or a year, and looking back and saying, well, okay, we're averaging about $4,000, $5,000 spend every month on bills, utilities, and you're getting down to the finite details, right? I mean, all the way down to Netflix subscriptions and groceries and fuel and things like that, right?
Right. And then I actually have you pad it by 10%, because you might want to go out with some friends for dinner more than the 2 times that you think you will. And you might want to take that trip to Disney World. So you pad that by 10%. Again, in the average, so that you're not missing out some of those miscellaneous items that you kind of forget about, or an extra movie night out with your spouse. But leave no stone unturned. And once you put it down on paper, your balance sheet, and you understand where your money is going, most people don't. I had a friend yesterday, a very, very close friend of mine. He's a high-level real estate investor. He's got a lot of properties. He's been doing this for a lot of years. But he made the mistake this time of not paying his quarterly taxes, or he thought that his bookkeeper, they were paying his quarterly taxes. He's like, you know what? I totally screwed up because I just didn't know my numbers. And it's my fault. And now he has to pay a huge tax bill because he didn't know his numbers and he wasn't on top of it.
Oh, yeah, that's terrible. Well, Clayton, understanding your numbers is great. Coming up with this freedom number is step one. After you understand what it's going to take to become financially free, what is the next step? What does one do? How do they go out and start building this passive income and, working towards their financial freedom?
Well, you need to start to look for money. And what I like to say is that money presents itself to those who take care of it. So if you're scared of money, if you have a fear of it, or you don't think that it can flow to you, guess what? It's not going to. I mean, it is simple as that. It's a law of attraction, and it does work. So if you want to hold on to money like a hoarder, and you don't want to donate money and help other people, it's not going to come to you. So that's one thing. You need to understand your why. Why are you doing this? So I like to call it, so really 3 steps, right? The be, do, and have process. So figure out your numbers first. What does financial freedom look like for you and your family? And then number 2, why do you want to achieve why do you want to get out of the rat? Is it you want to get out of the rat race and spend more time with your kids? Is it that you want to spend more time in your community, at your church? Maybe you don't go to church. Maybe you want to spend more time building things in your garage that you love working with. You're a woodworker and you love it, but you have no time to do it. And that's what brings you real passion in life. You want to start a YouTube channel that teaches people how to, build birdhouses. Whatever it is, what is your why first? Why do you want passive income? Because a lot of people just skip right to the second step, which is the do step. Should I invest in single families, commercial?
Yeah, right.
Billboards, mobile home parks, and I'm sure you get a lot of emails from people like, yeah, I want to do this, but what should I do? Single families, commercial? It's like, no, who cares? Who cares about that? You need to know why you're doing it in the first place first. And I get emails, and when my team, Morris Invest talks to people on the phone, investors, they're like, I'm just tired. I'm tired of driving 2 hours to and from work every day for somebody else. And I don't get to see my kids at night. My wife has a heavy burden. She's doing all the laundry. She's cooking and it's really hard on her. And I want to be home more. I want to be around. I want to, those formative years of my children. Because when they're 12 and they're off playing with their friends, guess what? You've missed that huge window of opportunity to be in really a valuable piece of their life. So is that your why? Great. Get good with that first. Then we can go to, single families, commercial, who cares? And then the third step is have, right? So that, that's when the money comes, right? Then you have. And that's why lottery winners, they lose it all because guess what? They go right to the have. They get a couple $1 million. You've heard these stories, right? Where they don't know their why. They don't know, they're not good stewards of money at all. And they lose everything as soon as they get it. So it's incredibly important to sort of set out your framework before you start out in real estate investing and to know where you're going. And then money will present itself and it'll show up. There's so many avenues, okay? You want to use some other people's money? Find some great deals, go out to your local RIA meeting, go to friends on LinkedIn, tell them you've got, these 3 properties. Would they like to invest, $50,000 a piece in this as you create an LLC together. Great. Or maybe you've got money in your 401k you can borrow from, not take a loan out, but borrow from. Maybe you've got a self-directed IRA. You could buy your first 2 rental properties that way. Maybe you've got a HELOC or you've got a primary mortgage and you can use some of your home equity to purchase rental properties like I did. There's so many ways to tap into financing or cash to get started in real estate.
Yeah, Clayton. So first and foremost, you've really got to start with that why and understand why it is you're about to take on this endeavor of trying to achieve financial freedom, because it's no small feat and it will be difficult. And if you've got this reason why, this motivator, this, big important reason or this cloud over your head that's really wanting you to, being the drive behind you doing what you're about to take on, it'll help you, get through those hard times and, take on such a big challenge. And then it goes into the do, right? The actual mechanics of investing in real estate, single family versus multifamily, all these different asset classes and how to do it and how to find deals. And then eventually you get the have. So kind of like the whole life cycle that you've planned out there. It's really, clear. And I think it's good for the listeners to hear that.
Yeah. I mean, and, the thing is, you go through that process and people say, well, can you really do that? Can you really achieve financial freedom in 3 years? We've had clients, and I'm so touched by this. And literally the other morning I was reading an email from one of our clients who just lost his job, and he sent an email in to us, and I pulled my son up on my lap and I said, son, this is what it's all about. He's 7, and I explained, and I read, he just learned how to read, and I had him read the email. And it was from a client who lost his job, but because he had like 5 or 6 properties with us now, he has enough passive income that it doesn't matter that he lost his job. And that's what it's all about. Being able to build that framework so that you have this passive income coming in every month, that no one can tell you that you have to go to sleep scared at night anymore.
Yeah, so awesome, Clayton. Well, maybe people out there, Clayton, are thinking like, well, Clayton, I'm not midway through my career. I didn't have, a great news anchor job in Manhattan. I didn't have all this going for me. I'm in my mid-20s or, mid-30s or whatever it might be, and I don't have a ton of liquidity to my name to just go out and start buying a bunch of single-family homes. What would you say to those types of people? What's the plan of attack for somebody like that trying to build passive income and achieve financial freedom?
Well, there are 3 key areas for anybody who's thinking about investing in real estate, and you don't have to, have all 3 of these. You only have to have 2 of these 3. Okay. So money, people, and a deal. Now, for some of your audience, you might not have money. That's a sticking point for a lot of people that listen to my podcast. I don't have the money, but guess what? They've got great friends. They've got great people around them. They know a lot of people, and they have the temerity to go out and find deals. So here's what you do. If you don't have money, then you don't have money, then scratch that off your list. Don't pretend you do. Don't act like you do. But it depends on how hungry you are. So are you hungry to make a big change? Are you hungry that you're in 3 years, you want to be financially free? It can be done. I can tell you it can be done. You just have to focus on it. It depends on how passionate you are and how hungry you are. Now, you could be lazy about it and do it in 20 years if you want. But if you want to make it happen fast, you can absolutely do it quickly. So a deal. How do you find a deal? Well, they're hard to find. But if you take, maybe a great wholesaling course, like my mentor over at Wholesaling Inc., if you study that, or you learn how to go out and just knock on doors, call Craigslist. The first 3 deals that I did when I started wholesaling in New Jersey were from Craigslist. I just called and called and called, and I found motivated sellers. I was able to be in between a contract, and I was able to then sell the contract to a flipper who wanted to be in a deal and make money spending 8 months working on a project, then was going to sell it for $700,000, and he would pay me, he paid me for the contract and a finder's fee basically. So there's ways to do it. So you could go out and find great deals off market, learn how to do that. There's so many tools and resources out there to help you find off market properties that they're hard to find. But now let's say you have 5 properties. Great. Now you've got one piece of the 3, right? Now you need to find people. Now figure out how to package that together as a proposal. Maybe a 3-ring binder. Put a 3-ring binder together with some photos and details of the project and the properties and what you plan to do and the cash flow that could come from holding these properties. Then go to your local real estate meeting and bring that binder with you and meet cash buyers who are there. Shake hands with people. Put it out on your LinkedIn network. Let them know you're a real estate investor, and here's the deal. See, the money will come. If you got a good deal, people have so much money right now, they don't know what to do with it, and they're making like 2 and 3 and 4% returns. If you bring them a deal where they can make 8-9% return from real estate, money will come to you. You just need to do a little bit of homework on how to present it to those people.
Yeah, I think that's a hard one for people to grasp, Clayton, is that there is in fact a lot of money out there looking for a good, stable home to be deployed in.
Right.
And for some people, it just seems like, well, that can't be true. I mean, I don't know anybody with money. I don't have anybody in my inner circle with, just a lot of money looking to do something with. So, but it is a fact. I mean, if you get out there and you're hustling and you've got what truly is a deal, money will come and money will follow it.
Yeah, and you know what? If you're surrounded, and I hate to be blunt about it, but I did a podcast recently where I said, just stop hanging out with losers. Like you are a product of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So are you hanging out with people that are lazy, that don't take action, that are poor, that don't do anything and expect people to hand them things? If that's the people you surround yourself with, what do you think you're going to be? You've got to go out and start seeking friends who are, level up, I like to say, like in Super Mario Brothers, get in the mushroom,
Yeah.
you double in size when you surround yourself with smarter people who, don't be bashful about it. Like, you don't have all the answers. Guess what? Surround yourself with people who do, and you're going to see a big change. You're going to start to be in their circle of influence. You're going to start to see that these are people who understand life. They have no fear of money. They're good stewards of it. Surround yourself with those people.
Yeah, well, Clayton, many of the audience members out there, they have some kind of circle, or they're obviously inclined to, learn about real estate because they're listening into this podcast right now. But there are people out there who kind of have this idea, like, of financial freedom, but they're not in any of these circles. They don't have any, friends who are into it, or, mutual peers or coaches or anything. How does somebody go out and start building their circle with the right people? Do you have any advice for somebody like that?
Well, I would say stay off the internet. That's one thing to do. I mean, internet forums, that's a terrible place because it's where misery loves company. And I often think you're going to find more people who are talking themselves out of taking action. So, I would say stay out of that, because you will, if you want to talk yourself out of anything, just go use the internet for an hour. And you'll find an Amazon review that tells you not to buy the iPhone. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to find some stuff. So don't do it then. Get out there and meet real people who are actually doing deals, real deals, not fake people. So go to your local real estate meeting. It's very simple. Just go to meetup.com, search for REIA groups in your area based on your location. Maybe there's one 20 minutes away. Maybe there's one 40 minutes away. Maybe there's one 5 minutes away. They meet multiple times a month. Start going, listening to the speakers that are there. Sometimes they're free to get in. Sometimes they'll be at a pool hall. You need to pay $5 admission. Here's my advice, and this is very important. Don't get business cards made. You don't have a business yet. Just go. Bring a pen with you, though, and shake hands with everyone. Don't go and stand in the corner and be scared. Go up to everyone with a name tag on and say, "Hi, John. My name is Clayton. I'm new to real estate investing. I'd like to get started. What do you do?" "Oh, you're a roofer." "Oh, great. Where do you do your projects?" And pick their brain about where they're doing the most work in your neighborhood and where they're seeing the most action and what type of roof do they do. And then, "Oh, that guy's a banker. Great. Go shake hands with him and say, I'm just getting started in real estate investing. Like, what kind of terms do you look for when you're putting together a deal?" Grab their business card and write down a note on the back of the business card about what you talked about. And start building a Rolodex of these people and email them. Go out to lunch with them. And guess what? That's what I did. And you're going to find that it's a small world, and you're going to start having these amazing relationships with people who might not just be in your little circle of people who are sitting on the couch every day playing Xbox.
Yeah, right. Well, Clayton, you're certainly no stranger to teaching people kind of how to get started along this journey to financial freedom and building wealth and passive income for themselves through your company, Morris Invest. So can you tell us a little bit about Morris Invest and how they help people, along this journey of, achieving financial freedom?
Well, we work with people who want to have a hands-off passive income investment. So if you're the type of person who loves watching like HGTV flip shows and wants to go out on the weekend and, hang drywall yourself and find deals and hire contractors and all of that kind of stuff, that's not who we are for. Our clients are the busy doctor who is terrible with their money. They're in surgery all day and they just want their money to work for them. So on the properties we do, our goal on every rehab property that we do, it's a turnkey operation. So they come to us, they book a call with our team. We want to know what their freedom number looks like. Is it 10 properties? Is it 12? And we want to work with them for 3-4 years to help them get there. And we try to make it super simple. So we rehab the property to a rent-ready state. We'll update the roof if it needs it, windows, we put a new furnace, water heater, electric, plumbing, etc. We work with our property management teams, place a tenant in the property. It's a hands-off, operation. So that surgeon who's busy in the ER, because we have a lot of doctors, and they will admit they are not good with their money. they work hard, and they're like, I don't know where to invest. So then they just, our goal on every property we do is between about a 9 and 12% net return on investment, and they just collect monthly rent. I built the company for myself, and my mom was really our first client, and we just kind of grew organically from there. She's like, hey, I've got $50,000 to invest from my 401k. Can you do everything for me? I'm like, sure. My team will do it. We'll just get it all done. And, 7-8 weeks later, when we're done with the rehab, it's, we got a tenant in there, and it's been cash flowing ever since. So that was really the model. And, we've just grown. We're in the Indianapolis market is our primary market. My office is located in Michigan, Ohio, and parts of Jacksonville as well, Florida.
Okay, awesome. And just to make sure, Clayton, this is the exact vehicle you've used personally to build wealth and achieve financial freedom yourself. And you kind of built this thing, like you said, for yourself, and then started helping other people do the exact same thing. So you're really practicing what you're preaching here.
Yeah, I own properties on the same streets as my clients, so I'm neighbors with on Oxford Street, on Dearborn Street. I've owned properties up and down those streets. So I built it for myself. I started acquiring properties, building my team, building my property management team, hiring my project managers, my contractors, the whole thing. It took years to do it. And then my neighbors were like, hey, can I get one of those? And then they were like, then it was, they'd refer their friend. And then it was doctors referring other doctors. And then it just, exploded from there.
Yeah. Well, Clayton, why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you out there helping so many people out? What inspires you? What drives you?
Well, my wife and I this year, right around the new year, said, what's our mission? What can we do? And there's an enormous amount of financial ignorance and lack of financial education in this country. All we're taught in school is how to balance a checkbook. Go out and get a job, work for somebody else, work for somebody else. And my wife and I have made it really our mission to try to change that paradigm, because I don't care if people work with us. If 1 out of every 5,000 people want to work with us, great. I want them to take action and create financial education and literacy in their own life, whether it's just paying off debt and figuring out how to start going after assets instead of liabilities. That makes me happy. So my mission is financial education. I want to help as many people as I can. I'm a broadcaster by trade, so I talk for a living. So, I thought, okay, launching my podcast, my YouTube channel, and I, do live streams now every Wednesday at 11 a.m. in our new studio. And I just open it up. I open up the floor. Anyone has questions about real estate investing, and I do it for free. Just come on, be there live, and I'm going to pour out my brain as much as I can and help as many people as I can. Try to give back. I've been blessed, so that's what I try to do.
Yeah, awesome, Clayton. Well, as we're wrapping up here, Clayton, we've got a lightning round, just a series of questions we'd like to fire at you, and you just answer from the hip. You ready?
Sure.
Okay, so our first question is, what was your biggest hurdle getting started investing in real estate, and how'd you overcome it?
My biggest hurdle was really a lack of education about where to start, because I was doing flips. There's so many different avenues. So you could go any different avenue. And my biggest mistake was not getting straight with the be, do, and have, the be. I didn't know why I wanted to do what I was doing. So I was chasing all these shiny object things, I was like, oh, maybe I'll try that. Maybe I'll try that. Maybe I'll try that. Lease, wholesaling lease options, and then wholesaling, and then, buying flip, and all of them. So,
yeah.
Until I got straight with my B, which is I'm never going to be fired again, or not have my contract renewed again, and not have cash flow coming in. And for me, that was what led to buy and hold.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. Well, Clayton, do you have a personal habit that contributes to your success?
Well, I've really struggled with like the discipline of like to-do lists. It's been a struggle for me. Um, but I have over the past few years started journaling every morning and meditating every morning. So wake up about 5 a.m., do about a 25-minute meditation. And then I open my journal and write down a few goals for the day and some of the things that I'm grateful for. And if I focus on sort of the big three things I know I need to accomplish, and I write those down, they have a tendency to get done, which is kind of remarkable. So just those little shifts in having that morning time, and then I meditate later in the afternoon as well, around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, roughly. But those little shifts allow me to focus on those big projects, and I have to say it keeps me focused on the one thing, which is, okay, if my goal is to get to 50 rental properties, then that should be my focus, then not being, dragged into trying this little thing, or I'm going to invest in Bitcoin and do all. No, I'm going after buy and hold real estate. And that's what my goal is. That's my one thing. Stick to it.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it. Well, Clayton, do you have an online resource you find valuable?
That's a great question. An online resource. Well, let me think about that. Oh yes, without a doubt. I was looking at my Windows here on my Mac and Slack. So,
oh yeah, okay.
My whole team uses Slack. I don't know how we'd run the company without it now. I mean, it seems like it just we slowly dove into it, and now we've got like all of our different property management offices are tied into our Slack channel, so we can, hey, what's the status on 123 Main Street? Is the tenant moved in yet? Is the rent, is that one completed with rehab? And our client wants to know because they're going to do this, they're going to refinance. So using Slack and being able to have all those different channels and that instant communication with my team, it eliminates so many emails, thankfully.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. Well, Clayton, what book would you recommend to the listeners and why?
Well, there's a great book that I really changed my life. It's called The 4 Spiritual Laws of Prosperity. And it's by Edwene Gaines, and she's a feisty old lady, and she's great. And, there's 4 spiritual laws. I won't go through all 4 of them, and you need to read it to find out the one that really makes you uncomfortable. And so for me, one of the spiritual laws was tithing. And because I had such a negative association with money growing up, money, doesn't grow on trees, we can't hold on to it, da-da-da-da-da. So tithing, she talks about, forget the church and all that. Obviously it's rooted in this idea of taking 1/10 of your cash, your income, and donating it to something. She says, but don't just donate it blindly, like you go to a church and just put it into a tray. You could do that, but she's saying, and she's like, it's not a Christian thing. It can be, you can think of it that way, but she's like, really, it's about giving to those who bring you spiritual nourishment. So giving 10% to those people could be the person whose book you just read that changed your life. You know what? Put some money in an envelope or a check and send it to that author. Or it could be the waitress at the restaurant who you're having a bad day and spends some extra time with you just to try to cheer you up and shifts your entire day. Leave that person the larger tip. So once you get right with not holding on to cash and realizing that it flows through you, and it's not something that we should just like hold on to like a hoarder, but donate, give, then money starts to flow to you. It's remarkable. So that book changed my life. I started implementing it right away, and that's when my entire life changed. I mean, I'm telling you, within a few weeks, everything shifted for me.
Awesome, Clayton. Well, that's a book that's new to me, so we'll certainly link that in the show notes for our audience to pick up if they want to read that one.
Awesome.
All right, Clayton, last question. If you were to give advice to your 20-year-old self getting started investing in real estate, what would it be?
Oh, boy. I would just say, hey, block out all distractions and just realize that buy and hold real estate is the number one way to build wealth. When other people are going to tell you to do this, that, and the other thing, just focus on holding rental properties. That's it. Just buy and hold real estate. And, the rest will fall into place, so just focus on that. And then the right people will start to come into your life. So I wish I would have known that at 20 years old.
Yeah, awesome. Well, good advice, Clayton. Well, Clayton, you've got all kinds of content you're putting out on the internet. You've got a prolific YouTube channel that's really starting to kick up. Tons of great content there. You've got an awesome podcast that you host, and then your website. Could you talk a little bit about how each of our audience members could find you on each of those platforms?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you love podcasts, like I'm sure you do, and you're listening to this one,
Right.
we've got it's called the Investing in Real Estate podcast, very generic name, Investing in Real Estate with Clayton Morris. And we publish 3 times a week. We do sort of a mindset episode. Natalie and I do a show together where we talk about family finances around real estate. So our tax structure, how, our LLC, all those things we talk about in that show. And then once a week, we have an expert on to talk about, buy and hold real estate at someone who might own 2,000 properties. And then, my YouTube channel, it's just Morris Invest. If you just look for that, we've got hundreds of videos there. We just opened the new studio, the new live streaming studio, 4K. So we're going to be doing live YouTube shows and Facebook shows live with Q&A and around specific topics. We're going to have some great guests on there as well. So those are my 2 favorite places, my podcast and our YouTube channel. It's where we put our most work.
Awesome, Clayton. Well, if our audience wants to get a hold of you, how do they contact you?
That's the best thing to do. Just come on over to our website, morrisinvest.com. Reach out to us there. You can find all the contact info, download the cheat sheet, and we'll jump on the phone with you for 30 minutes and have a chat about real estate goals and what you're looking to accomplish in your life.
Awesome, Clayton. Well, we'll link all those sites in the show notes for our audience to find you if they have any questions. Clayton, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Jacob. I appreciate it.
All right, that wraps up our interview today with Clayton Morris. Hey, I hope you're getting value from this show. If you like what you've heard, please leave a rating and review on whichever platform you're listening on. For more information and resources, or to connect with me, visit www.jacobayers.com. Till next week, signing off, I'm your host, Jacob Ayers.
You've been listening to the Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom podcast, providing you actionable content to build your real estate empire. Nothing on this show should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for personal advice. The opinions of guests are their own. Information is not guaranteed. All investment strategies have a potential for profit or loss. The host is operating on behalf of the Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom, LLC, exclusively.